Hello, my friends. Welcome to another Tech Forum, Synagogue Tech Forum. My name is David Paskin, and I am thrilled to be here with all of you. It's going to be, I think, a really nice day. We have a few people here with us today. Let's see. Dave, I can see you. Hello, Henry.
Hello.
Henry's an old friend from the Hybrid Ministries, I believe. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes.
So let's make the rounds. Dave, Henry, say hello, and then I'll tell you what we have on deck for today.
Hi, David. Nice to be on the panel again.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Henry. Calling from Vancouver, and always excited to see what people are doing in the world of bringing Torah and tech and services together.
Okay, I'm from Denton, Texas, and been on these things for a long time. Never served as a panelist before, and I'm not sure I've qualified.
You've made it to the big time, Henry.
I made it here, and I'm looking forward to the session this afternoon. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome. And Adrian just joined us also. Hi, Adrian. It's our friend Adrian. Adrian, unmute and say hi.
Hi, everybody.
It's so good to see you back.
It's nice to be back. You know what? I lost my list of topics. What is today's topic?
So today is about Tefillin tactile tech. So I had, so I'll just, let me take over and I'll introduce the video and what we're going to do, and then we'll come back around. So my name is David Paskin, your Torah tech guy, and we're missing some of our sort of, I know my name says Marty Attias because I have to, that's how I log in so I can get this all started. Sorry, I will change that. Where is rename? There it is. David
You were trying to
Paskin.
be incognito, David.
I know, I'm trying to not be who I am. So many of our regulars are not here today, but I am so happy to have Dave and Adrian and Henry with us here. Really a joy. And to those who are watching either on YouTube or Facebook or here in Zoom, it's good to have you here also. So I had the opportunity to speak with a dear friend of mine who is a rabbi. And the reason I reached out to him is because he had posted on Facebook that his community just celebrated their worldwide wrap in a hybrid, a multi-access kind of way. For those of you who don't know, the worldwide wrap is the world's attempt to get lots of people to put on tefillin. Tefillin are, I should have brought my props with me. I have them behind me, but I can't reach them right now. Tefillin are the phylacteries with the boxes and the leather straps that we put on every morning, except for Shabbat and holidays. And they're a very material, tactile experience, right? You feel it on your arm. It's not prayer. When we think of prayer, we think of sort of an ethereal experience, a metaphysical experience, if you will. Tefillin is about as physical as it gets. And so when I saw him post saying, hey, we did our worldwide wrap, but it was hybrid, it was multi-access, that piqued my interest. So I wanted to talk to him about how that worked. And I actually learned a few things along the way. So they come from a more traditional perspective. And so they had some interesting hacks for how they make all of this work in their community. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share that video with you now. It's just about 15, 20 minutes, I believe, of my interview with him. And then we'll come back, we'll discuss, we'll talk. So let's do it. Everyone, here he is.
Sorry, David, the audio isn't coming through.
From what synagogue are you with? Tell us a little bit about yourself and welcome.
Thank you. Well, I'm originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where I first met you at Herzl Camp. I now live in Wayne, New Jersey, and I'm at
Can you all hear okay?
Shomrei Torah, where I've been for almost 30 years now.
Could be a bit louder.
And
That's amazing. 30 years? That's incredible.
Came in 95, 27 years.
That's amazing. God bless. That's wonderful. And yes, Herzl was a very long time ago. More than 25 years ago.
Yes, indeed.
Or 27 years ago. Yeah, yeah. And what kind of synagogue is it? Is it affiliated? Are you?
It's a small egalitarian conservative synagogue. We are a USCJ affiliate. So
Great. Okay. So the reason that you're here, the reason that we're talking, is because of this. So I saw on Facebook a post by, I guess Eric is a member of your community, a member of your congregation. Yeah. And it was about the worldwide wrap, and that you had this amazing, successful hybrid worldwide wrap. And so I was hoping that you might be able to talk us through a little bit about sort of how this all came together, what your goals were, and how the hybrid piece specifically worked, because it's not easy to do hybrid well. So take it away.
Sure. I guess in many ways, this event was a subset of what we do in general. We have some of our services that are Zoom only and some that are multi-access, where we are in person in the sanctuary, we're on Zoom, and we live stream. And so when the question came up about the worldwide wrap for this year, I said we have a long history of inviting our middle school students and their parents to come to the wrap. And our religious school is meeting in person on Sunday mornings. So I would like to offer an in-person segment. Normally our Sunday morning minyan these days is Zoom only. Shabbat morning is multi-access. And everybody was game. So those who wanted to come join me in the sanctuary did so. We had some students and their teachers and some parents. We had some guys from the men's club who come annually to put on tefillin and don't otherwise. We had other people who are morning minyan regulars who like the idea of being able to come back into the sanctuary to put on their tefillin, since they haven't been able to do that for a while. And as you saw from the screen, we have set up in our sanctuary a large monitor. And when we do multi-access services, we have the screen up, and we welcome people into our sanctuary either in person or on Zoom.
It looks like you have dual screens here. Is that you've got two different screens going on, or?
So our live stream setup has three cameras: a wide angle camera, and then two that we focus in on the Torah reading table and the rabbi's podium.
Right. I guess what I'm asking is, are these two black boxes, are those screens, or are those something that is overlaid over this image?
It's an overlay because we have three cameras.
Oh, interesting. I understand.
Sure.
Oh.
Because on Shabbos morning, we don't actually play with the live stream.
I know there's an echo. I'm not sure why. I think
such
that's on the
an
original
interesting
video. I
approach.
apologize for that.
So
instead of camera switching, you built a scene in which you've got pretty much every view that you'd want right there.
Correct. That way nobody has to staff it, and we don't have to handle it on Shabbos. But you can see the Torah reading close up, and you can see me when I'm talking to the congregation.
What an interesting and beautiful way to accommodate both the halachic Jewish legal aspects and wanting to have something more than just a static shot. This is really, really interesting. I've never even thought about this. Fascinating. How and the community appreciates the different views that they're able to see right here in this one shot?
Well, the community is divided over this whole endeavor.
Okay.
So those who are using Zoom appreciate it, and they like being able to see what's going on. We have some in the congregation who feel that it is invasive, and they would like to see the Zoom screen disappear from the sanctuary and just have people in person or live streaming.
Where is that Zoom screen? We're not seeing it here. Is there I wonder if there's another shot that
it is. I'm not sure that there is. Well, okay, so that's the side of the bima. So from that
so
picture,
it's on that
if you
little
were to
TV. I
turn
understand.
90 degrees, you would see first my Stender and then the beam as a whole.
And this TV is what you use as your Zoom to gotcha. I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So the people in the sanctuary can see the people on Zoom. People on Zoom are seeing the picture that's being shown that you showed before, and the live stream shows the picture that was up previously.
Yep.
And again, one of the things that we've done that's controversial is that we are fully interactive on Shabbos. So in other words, it's not unusual for someone to lead Pesukei de Zimra from their living room over Zoom while the rest of us are in the sanctuary. And we hand out aliyot on Shabbat, both to people in the room and to people on Zoom.
Can you talk a little bit about that? You know, there are lots of communities that bring people in for aliyot or for English readings or for what have you. Having someone lead Pesukei de Zimra, that's really, really interesting. How did that come about? How does it work? Not technologically, but you know, how successful is it? What are some of the challenges that you may have found with that?
Well, the way it came about was that when we came back to in-person services, many people reverted to their previous practice, meaning they showed up at all different times during the first hour of davening. So it's not unusual for us to start with 3, 4, 5 people in the sanctuary, and often I'm the only davener in the room. One of our Zoom regulars was a Shabbos regular pre-pandemic and is one of our daveners. And so rather than dominate the service, I invited him to lead from his house. And while some people find it disconcerting, sort of like when a rabbi who's a Kohen officiates at a funeral from outside the room, but you hear his voice and don't see him, at least now you can actually see him. And
Are you a Kohen?
I'm not.
Wait a second. I never even thought about that aspect of this. So now a Kohen can officiate at a funeral via Zoom.
Right. So one of the funeral homes near me had a Kohen room where it was just a voice. Now they have a camera in there, so you can see the rabbi and the monitor in the sanctuary. But it was just a parallel that I thought of. That's all.
But no, but it's very, very interesting. It's another piece I had never thought of. That's fantastic. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No. So often he will lead Pesukei de Zimra for us. Recently he had his father's yortzeit and didn't want to come in, but wanted to daven Shachrit. So I actually let him lead Shachrit from home. That was a little more challenging.
Now, why is that?
Why is that? Because we tend to do a lot of congregational singing in Shachrit, and so sometimes it can be out of sync.
Yeah.
And so actually all I did was I muted the sanctuary and led those in the sanctuary. And if we were off by a little bit, it didn't really matter a whole lot. When we finished whatever we were doing, we could hear where he was a little ahead of us or a little behind us, and then reconnect.
Yeah. When just one technical question: when you say you muted the congregation, did you just walk over to the TV and click the mute button with a mouse, or do you have how are you controlling that?
So we made the decision that once we were using Zoom on Shabbos, that we were going to use Zoom on Shabbos. And so while we do it as minimally as possible, we still do it. So we have someone who's a Zoom host for us who can let people in from the waiting room and can mute and unmute.
Great. So that frees you up to really focus on the davening and not worry about the Zoom so much.
Yeah, I'm often there in the background if people are missing what needs to be done, right? Once upon a time, I walked to shul on Shabbos, leaving my phone at home, and then I walked to shul on Shabbos carrying my phone that was turned off. Now my phone is on the Bima, logged into the Zoom. So if I need to, I can mute or unmute or let people in from the waiting room.
As a clergy person that's whose primary job is to lead davening, to teach Torah, to bring people in, how has that transition been for you? Having to use technologies to really, in some ways, accomplish your goal with more people than you would otherwise be able to.
So on one level, it is disturbing because I'm doing things that I never wanted to be doing, and in an ideal world would not be doing. But I've also taken the position halakhically and philosophically from the start of my tenure, start of my career, in fact, that I would never be a rabbi who asked people to do things I was unwilling to do myself. Either it's allowed or it's not allowed. So in my previous congregation, when I discovered that members used to arrive before the rabbi to turn on the lights, I said to them, you don't have to arrive before me. If you do, great. And if you don't, I'll do it. Because we used electricity in that congregation. I was okay with that. I've also found that as a rabbi leading a congregation, often there are times when I give up on my personal davening experience for the sake of the community. So, as you and I know, when davening on Shabbos morning, you're not supposed to have any kind of break before the Amidah, and yet my people need an announcement. So I've taken to making announcements there. Or another, so another one of those kind of things is when you lead services on the Yamim Norim, on the High Holy Days, right? So rather than just davening, I've got my siddur, I've got my matzah open, I've got a lead sheet in front of me, I've got my watch sitting there, and I'm aware of all kinds of different things to help the service run smoothly, but don't give me the kind of davening experience I would necessarily like as an individual.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of clergy, alachat kama v'kama now with Zoom, and before we had technology that we had to keep. We had, like you said, the lead sheet, the watch, that's all technology. Now we have even more that we have to kind of keep our eye on, and I think it does it can really be challenging to those of us who are trying to lead when we can't ourselves daven, when we can't ourselves pray. I know that for myself, I only lead good davening when I myself am davening. And so I've created an ecosystem around me that allows me to worry as little as I possibly can about all of that other stuff. And it sounds like having a Zoom master, or whatever you call it, Zoom Gabbai, really allows you to do, to a certain extent, to do some of that. Yeah. So the worldwide wrap. Now, the reason this caught my attention is because tefillin, which for those who may not know, tefillin is the phylacteries that you wear on your arm and on your head every weekday morning. It is such a physical, visceral experience. For me, I actually really disliked wearing tefillin for the first 40 years of my life. And then I was at Camp Ramah, and I made my own tefillin. We had a professional coming from Israel, and we actually literally made our own tefillin. And now I just can't get enough. Now I love them. And it's the tactile, physical, kind of visceral aspect of tefillin that are so powerful to me. And so here now we are trying to recreate that in a multi-access format. How did that work? What did you consider that piece of the puzzle?
Well, so the in-person part did what the Worldwide Wrap has always done, right? In other words, it brought in people who are not tefillin wearers, and I've collected over the years extra sets of tefillin that I use for teaching, and so we had tefillin for all of them to put on, and we had enough vatikim in the room who knew what they were doing to help them put on their tefillin. And the people who came in over Zoom are regular minyan attendees and regular tefillin wearers. And so people at home were just doing what they always do, but they were doing it together with those of us in the sanctuary, some of whom are always there and some of whom, are occasionally there.
So what's interesting to me about that is that the people on Zoom, the people in your Zoomagogue were not the ones that you were necessarily having to work to engage. They were already engaged. The folks that needed that, not hand holding, but that extra whatever oomph, were the ones in the room. Do you think that could you have done? I mean, if you had people on Zoom that maybe needed that extra whatever.
Well, I did make the offer if anybody wanted to participate from home over Zoom and didn't have their own set of tefillin, that they could come in and pick up a set that I would give them take home, and that we were meeting at 8:45 to help people put on tefillin before the service started at 9, and that we'd be happy to talk them through it. But I didn't have anybody who took me up on the offer.
Okay, all right. I wonder if one of the things that I've been talking about and suggesting with congregations, and I think more and more congregations are doing this. This is a big thing in the church world, is having watch parties. So if someone can't make it into shul, Shabbos or no Shabbos, let's take the halachic issues aside, but even for a weekday for a worldwide rap morning minyan, if someone can't come into shul, but there are two other people that live in their community, maybe they could all walk to one house and share the experience together over Zoom. So so the house can Zoom in, but they're still with other people. And I'm thinking about, if someone needed that guidance to put on tefillin, I wonder if there would have been a way if there was a need, to match them up even in their own home.
That's interesting. That's not something I'd ever thought about, the watch party concept. Because I think the whole idea of putting on tefillin for the first time is you need someone who can guide you through it.
Right.
Right. I grew up in the Reform movement. I was not a tefillin wearer, and actually first put on tefillin working at camp. When, as part of the job, I had to put on tefillin for morning minyan.
Yeah.
And I was outraged and incensed. How can you tell me I have to? And I was told I don't have to. But if I take the job, I have to.
Was this at Herzl?
It was actually at Tactile before the two camps merged.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because that doesn't sound like a Herzl thing to make people wear tefillin, if I remember correctly.
So I came over with Bob Wolf when the two camps merged in '81. But prior to that, I was a staff member for Bob at Tikva. And Bob required male staff to put on tefillin at minyan.
Gotcha.
And it was my first encounter with the world of work, where you don't have to take the job, but if you do take the job, you have to take the parts you like along with the parts you don't like. It's a good life lesson. And tefillin, which I was completely resistant to, and never would have done on my own, ultimately became a meaningful mitzvah to me, which I wouldn't have started in the first place if I hadn't been required to.
That's right. Well, that's a very Jewish thing, right? Na'aseh v'nishma. Do it,
right,
and you'll come to appreciate it after the fact. Yeah.
Well, so that's actually something that I came to appreciate and has informed my rabbinate. But it's a tough sell to liberal American Jews, the idea that they should do something that they don't understand or want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I have a show with my colleague down here, Rabbi Litwack, called Face to Face, and this week. I don't want to give it away. I don't think the same audience watches, but actually no. This is what we're talking about now isn't airing for a couple of weeks, so I can say it because it'll be after the fact. So the question for this week is: what are the 3 most important things that every serious Jew needs to know? And one of mine is, being a Jew doesn't mean you just get to do whatever you want. I know we all think that being a Jew means we're open and we can, choice, and that's not really a very Jewish idea. That sometimes you just do things and then you only come to appreciate them after the fact.
I spent a long time in my community telling them, only somewhat successfully, that Judaism is a communal religion, and you do what's good for the community and not necessarily what's good for yourself individually.
Yeah.
Which runs very counter to American individualism.
Yep. Yeah. And a very Reconstructionist idea, right? That we're here about the community, not about ourselves. So what, lastly, I mean, takeaways from the experience, and of course, more broadly from in general about how you've been doing the multi-access experiences, but also from the worldwide wrap. What works? What isn't working? What needs to be done better? Not just for you, but sort of broadly thinking about how we are going to use these technologies to connect with and engage our congregations.
Well, I think what works is that the Zoom technology really allows us to bring people into the room who physically are unable or unwilling, or it's not safe for them to come into the room. And you can be inclusive and allow them to feel like real participants, not just second-class citizens. The flip side is not everybody's on board with that. And so I don't know that there's a good way to resolve that. That's actually what we're struggling with right now.
Rabbi, when you say not everyone's on board, I would have to guess, only having worked in the conservative movement for a long, long time, that it's not that they're opposed because of halachic reasons, because of Jewish legal reasons, but I think some are just opposed because it doesn't feel right. Or having, as you said before, having a screen in the sanctuary doesn't feel right. Is that what you sense?
Oh,
or are there
100%.
other reasons? Yeah.
None of them object halachically. It just doesn't run counter to their sense of Shabbos. Also, people who were Shabbos regulars who stopped coming during the pandemic, who didn't like Zoom, and who don't really like our hybrid approach, they're looking to recreate the Shabbos experience they had before the pandemic, and it's different. Right? There's fewer people who are there, and there's the screen, and it is different. And so they haven't quite found what they were looking for. And again, now 7 Ishma, I keep telling them things that disturbed me at the beginning, I don't even notice now. Right? You have to give yourself time to adjust. But so we're dealing with things like right now, like what happens if we lower the screen? What if the screen faces the bima so I can see it, but the people in the congregation can't see it? What if we have Shabbatot where participation will only be from the bima? Looking for ways to not exclude the people who are on Zoom, but to try and make it more comfortable for the people who are unhappy with the choices we've made thus far.
It's a tricky balancing act, because I've argued that I never want to go back to what it was before the pandemic, because I frankly don't think it was that great. I think that we were having fewer and fewer people show up for davening and engaging in meaningful prayer experiences. Having said that, there was beauty in what we created pre-pandemic. And there are a lot of people for whom that was a deeply meaningful connection. And this has been a tremendous disruption. And so I think the balancing act is, how do we do what you just said? How do we work to make sure that those people do find that comfort again, and that that tradition, that security again, and at the same time continue to evolve and create new comfort and new experiences for the people, like you said, who for whatever reason may not be able to join us in on site in the sanctuary.
Yeah, look, it's had all kinds of unexpected side benefits, right? So being in New Jersey, we have a community of snowbirds. It used to be that they just disappeared for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or however long
they came down to
Florida.
me.
Right? Now they come to Shalom Shabbos, but they come down to Zoom. And so there's a nice connection there that we didn't have before. We've had B'nai Mitzvah with grandparents who couldn't attend, but they could Zoom in from wherever they were in the country, and they could see their grandchild on the bima, right? The grandchild and the parents could see them, and it made a nice connection that just didn't exist pre-pandemic. And so I think those are important factors.
That's beautiful. And the name of your community is Shomrei Torah?
We are Shomrei Torah, the Wayne Conservative Congregation.
There we go, right there. Wow, people can upload their vaccination card. That's interesting. Live stream and Zoom service.
We required masks and vaccinations in person. You can either upload your card or you can show it at the door.
That's beautiful. And here's the live stream information.
Yep,
and the Zoom information. Fantastic. It's wonderful that you
can access the live stream from the website. The Zoom actually isn't on the website. You can get that by contacting the synagogue or through email, but we don't put that out there.
Of course, which is so important for security. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Rabbi Mark, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with me. I'm really I learned quite a bit that I hadn't thought of. I'm especially fascinated by the multi-view within the one scene that's in Zoom. That's just fantastic. Really good stuff. If people want to learn more about you, Shomrei Torah, WCC.org.
Yep.
And you can view the live stream there also, just /live stream to view their next worldwide wrap and their Shabbos live streams. Thank you again so much.
Take care.
So I apologize for the echo there. That was my bad on the recording side. But let me just open it up and see if anyone has thoughts or insights. I brought, while we were watching, I grabbed my Tefillin so that I could. So these are the Tefillin that I made, and you can see. I mean, they're a very, very like when this is wrapped around your arm, you know it's there. It's the most physical of Jewish experiences in some ways. So, what do you think,
David? I was really interested in the service of technology in service of kavanah. You know, there's keva and there's kavanah. There's practice and why you're doing it and the motivation behind it. And I think as we grapple with, because I was certainly on the side of, you know, didn't turn my phone on Shabbos. I walked to shul on Shabbos, and now I'm like the tech guy who's doing all the Zoom stuff, and trying to daven as well is really a challenge. But the idea that the technology can be in service of the greater kavanah, of inclusiveness, of community, I think is really coming through. We heard it from Randall today, and it's the thing we all struggle with, that it's not a show. It is a conveyance. It is something in the service of community, in the service of Hashem, to bring Shabbat to a wider audience. And so it's actually holy work rather than just, you know, technical stuff. It's different than flipping the lights on.
You're right. That piece about his personal transition from not carrying the phone to now using it up in the bimah. I wonder how many other people. I come from a pretty traditional background, and from where I come from, no matter what the goal is, you don't do it. You just don't play with your phone on Shabbat. But I think for some of us in the middles, we made that choice, and the way you just framed it is really beautiful, right? Is that we're not giving in to necessity. We're embracing opportunity. Yeah, Adrian, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just, in listening to what was going on, and the thought of bringing other people in and having more people want to put on the phylacteries. Perhaps, as long as they're using Zoom, why not come on like 15 minutes earlier and say, come on, we're coming on together. We're going to learn how to do this together, which is basically what we are doing with a lot of things right now, and therefore getting more people, whether they're home or in the sanctuary, to participate. And, we come from a very assorted group of people, and we tend to use the women to run the technology so the men can run the service.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
That feels that's okay. I just want to respond to the first thing you said, because you're right. Having people come on. In fact, you mentioned having people come on 15 minutes early. One of the things that I hope we continue to do is creating moments both before and after our services or our classes or whatever, for just mingling, for schmoozing, for talking. Because not going into the social hall for kiddush, or not going into the library for a little schnapps and herring. Not that I eat either of those, but that loss is real. And so creating space online for people to be able to share just non-scripted moments, I think, is really important. Women participating in the technology so that men can do the service, that rubs me the wrong way just a little, but maybe that's just my sensibilities.
It's very interesting, Adrian, because we have Zoom Shamashim. That is the people who go through and they manage the waiting room and they mute, the rogue unmuters, who mistakenly unmuted while they're talking to their spouse. So, and that's their job is they just watch the waiting room, let people in, and mute people who need to be muted. And by and large, it is the women who've signed up for that duty. It's an open roster, but there's a higher proportion of women than men on it. But I also love the idea, like when before the service and after the service, everybody unmutes and wishes Shabbat Shalom. And we're now starting to do it more during the service at Mourner's Kaddish, at Shema Yisrael, that even though it is a cacophony of things because we're not in the room together. Randall mentioned that they mute the speaker from the sanctuary when they want to hear Zoom people, but we'll talk about another time how you can do it in a way that you can hear people from Zoom in the sanctuary. And everyone has to be on their own time, but there's certain times that everybody having open mic is really it's a wonderful balagan, a wonderful mess.
My
I
favorite
would tell you that.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
Even
please, Adrian, please.
Even during our service, we have been so fortunate in having whoever, whether it's the rabbi or one of the other individuals, reading Torah. And we do have a gentleman who is very distinguished in understanding and knowing everything about the Torah. We've actually had discussions on what the Torah was saying while they were reading it, even to the point where it has created such discussions that after services, we've actually been on, there are times we've been on like an hour and a half after services, just talking about what went on, what the Torah was about, and how it relates to things today.
That's so beautiful. One of my favorite words that I ever learned is the word cacophony. Which apparently means lots and lots of loud noises all together, everyone talking at the same time. And to be able to recreate that in digital space is really powerful. Dave, you had mentioned the challenge of hearing the Zoom in the room. And do you want to jump on that for a second and talk about?
Yeah. I mean, Zoom is pretty amazing at what it does. And one of the things it does is this thing called a mix -1. That is, everybody hears everybody else. So if you have 50 people, Zoom is actually mixing 49 of the other people for you and giving it to you, and 49 of the other people for somebody else. And it's really quite a miraculous technology. And what that means is that if you put your computer through a PA system and on a big screen, as we do, and it's actually the Zoom computer. You don't want to do it with two computers, but if it is the Zoom computer that's also broadcasting, then you can have a very loud PA system and a big monitor with no feedback, which was really the challenge that we had ever trying to do hybrid things before. So Zoom, if you set it up in the simplest possible way, which is just use one computer, but connect to HDMI to a screen and to a PA system, works really well for hybrid, and you don't need to have mixers and anything else. You just have those two things, and when somebody speaks on Zoom, you can hear them in the room, and the people in the room can be heard over Zoom. It's quite beautiful.
Right, and the challenge is when you do have a sound system or a mixer or things like that, when it is more complicated, the basic rule of thumb that I suggest to people is when the Zoom is speaking, the room is muted. When the room is speaking, the Zoom is muted. So if your rabbi, your cantor, a layperson is leading the service and speaking into the microphone, into the PA system, which is then fed into Zoom, just make sure that everybody on Zoom is muted. And when someone from Zoom is having an aliyah or doing a reading or participating in some way, just click the mute button on the computer in-house so that everyone in the room can hear Zoom, but then Zoom is not hearing that fed back through the sound system. So yeah, if you have a simple setup, Zoom does a fantastic job at it. When you have a little more complex setup, we haven't cracked the physics nut quite yet. Of
as we
sound.
heard on your video where Randall
As
was.
we heard it, well, no, that was not a physics nut. That was just me being a bit of an idiot, and I had pressed the wrong button. But actually, what's interesting is the reason that happened is because I do have a little bit of a more complex setup. I'm using a mixer and I'm running multiple things into multiple places. And when I'm not in Zoom and I'm just recording or streaming, I have to remember to turn one of my channels off, and I clearly didn't. So that's actually a good example of how sometimes when you have those more complex setups, you need to pay more attention to that. But real quick, Adrian, I wanted to, you had mentioned the hopping on 15 minutes before and helping people. My personal experience with teaching children how to put on tefillin is that there's something, I don't want to say necessary, but there's something really beautiful about being able to be there to help them physically wrap. And so I loved what Rabbi Mark said about how if there were folks that needed that extra support, that what they would normally do is send someone to their house. All right, they'd have a traveling tefillin cadre to actually go to the house and help that person with that. The other thing that really, I can't believe I'd never thought about this. So the way they set up their stream, I thought was really interesting. So, right, they wanted to minimize the amount of button pressing that they had to do on any given Shabbat or holiday. And so they set, I didn't even get into how they set up the scene, but they built a scene with all three cameras in the one scene. So they've got the main camera, which is the bima. Then they've got their rabbi cam and their Torah cam. And those are sort of what we would call pips, picture-in-pictures on top of the main scene, so that at any given time, you can see all three of those cameras and no one has to switch anything. No one has to press any buttons. There's no camera switching. That to me was really interesting and fascinating as a way to simplify the whole process and to minimize if you don't want to be a button presser on Shabbat, to minimize that to an absolute minimum. I thought that was really, really interesting. Any thoughts on how that might look or be received? Or Greg liked the simple setup. Yeah, I tend to like being able to do different views. When I'm teaching, I'll sometimes switch between different cameras just to show different aspects of what I'm doing. And I have a bunch of different scenes that are built up so that I can, bring in other pieces of information. But I've also really started to realize the power of a clean and simple presentation. That when we focus on the people, when we focus on the human beings and the experience that we're creating together and experiencing together, rather than, flashy animated video things or whatever, it can be just as powerful, if not more powerful. There was a question on the office hours panel a few mornings a week, and someone asked earlier this week about what are they called? Stingers for services. It was for church, and a stinger is if I'm switching from one scene to another, rather than just fading from this camera to this camera as this is doing. It's something that would actually kind of flash across the screen, some sort of animated video piece that would flash across. And then after that flash, after that scene movement, that stinger, you get to the new scene. And my answer to that, he was asking how to do that. And there are lots of ways to do that. But my answer was, is that really going to add anything to the prayerful experience? Or is that just for show? Sorry, David, go ahead.
There's a whole spectrum of that. I watch a lot of church services that are TV broadcast quality. There's sports with thirds and animations, and that's a show. It's not what we do at Or Shalom. At Or Shalom on Shabbat, it's only cuts and dissolves. We've just added some lower thirds now with the prayers, so that people who don't have the siddur at home can daven along with it. But even there's no animations, because that's just our cutoff point. Like you is saying, it kind of takes you out of the moment. It says, "Hey, it's a TV show." It's like being too Hollywood. And so the cuts and dissolves are the only thing that we have on Shabbat. And we do have things that have much more production value with multiple cameras and stuff, but there's a certain minimalist aesthetic to the Shabbat service that I think you're talking about.
I also think there's a question of where our focus should. Yeah, Adrian, I see you. Just one second. I think there's also a question of where our focus should be. For the longest time, when I would go to a scene like this, I had a moving colored background. I can't even bring it up now because I got rid of it. But my background would kind of move, and someone said to me one time, that's really distracting. All that movement, and I wanted to be like CNN with the this and the moving colors, and they said that's really distracting. I want to focus on you and what you're teaching or what you're sharing, and so I got rid of it. So I think you're right. It is. You said it at the beginning, Dave. I think that technology should always be in the service of the kavanah and the experience and the intention of the moment that we're in. Adrian, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say that I know that during most of our virtual services, on the screen is no one except what is being, because we have people from all over the country joining us, especially people that have gone away for the winter months. We are a much older community. We have extremes. We have our young people and their families from the Hebrew school, but a good portion of us are in older communities, and many of them go away for the winter. So what we're doing is we are keeping on the screen exactly the prayers from the prayer book that we are currently using, so that they can follow the service. So you don't have a lot of people movement. You can actually see, and even for those that are not in the synagogue, they can actually do, because we do interactive services. So everybody is participating, whether you're doing a Hebrew reading or you're doing an English reading. And therefore they can, from wherever they are, read whatever it is that we're doing in the synagogue, even if they're online, and they can do it out loud. So we hear them.
Do you do that through a screen share, Adrian? Do you know? Is it just simple screen sharing in Zoom?
I believe so. And
Okay.
even the Torah reading, we have both the Hebrew and the English of the Torah reading up on the screen. So when they're reading different portions, if the rabbi or whoever is reading wants to talk about it, it's right in front of us in both Hebrew and English, depending on how you want to read it.
Right. So the way to me, the way to level that up and make it an even richer experience is to not use Zoom screen share, but use some other platform that allows you to share, that allows you to build a view where the speaker or the rabbi or the teacher or the cantor is next to the text. My struggle with Zoom screen share is that it makes you disappear. It makes the face disappear up into the corner unless you have certain settings on, and the participants have to have certain settings where they can adjust the size of the screen share. Most of the time, the person who's speaking disappears into a little square in the top corner. Whereas if you're using something like OBS or Minicam or Ecamm or any of those, then you can build a scene where, if I'm teaching, I do this all the time actually. If I'm teaching a class and I want to bring up a text, I'm just going to pull something up real quick from Safaria. So let's say I'm teaching, let me find one of my sheets that I've actually been doing. Profile, here we go. So this is a class I'm going to be teaching coming up. And when I'm teaching this, what I'll usually do is build a scene like this. So now I've got the text next to me. I can reference the text. When we're actually reading the text, then I might switch to something like this so that the text is a little bigger for people to see. But they're not here for me. This isn't about me. It's not about my Shana Punim on the face. It's about connection, right, between the teacher and the participants, the learners. We're all learners, but so that would be the way that I would suggest leveling it up. Sorry, Dave.
There's a loveliness to that. The reason I dislike Zoom screen sharing on Shabbat is also partially because you're exposed to the fact you're looking at a computer. Typically, people are doing browser share. You can see their browser history. You see menu items. It's a bit weird. So when you can say, I just want to see the text, not the fact that I'm running, some kind of browser. That's also a very nice piece. But
that's interesting. Wait, that's fascinating, Dave. That's beautiful. So another reason to invest in some technology here is to make sure that the experience is not, we're using technology to hide technology.
Yeah. We're being selective about what we're looking at. We want to look at the words of Safaria, not see your browser history or the tabs.
That's so interesting. That's beautiful.
I wanted to make a quick pitch for Gallery View. Gallery View is a very great feature in Zoom and one that we use extensively. Our rabbi, Hannah Dressner, is a visual artist. And she asked the community to create what she calls a mikdash me'at, a small temple. That is, we have a strong aesthetic that everyone is on video, that everyone has their video on. Partially you do it for security because we got Zoom bombed by somebody who wasn't. So, but to a much more positive reason is so that each household creates a little space where maybe they have, you can see that we're wearing Tefillin or talit, and you may have flowers in the background. She does a beautiful job of making her space, her Zoom space, really beautiful to see, and challenge all of us to do that too. So Gallery View is really quite beautiful because it's being invited into people's homes to see, they picked a place, they put their laptop up high, and and there may be flowers in there or something that lets you really see that they've made it Shabbosdik. It's a celebration. And so when so many people are on Gallery View and have their cameras on, it really does feel like community.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And just to play devil's advocate, the flip side is that people often forget they have their cameras on. And you need to be aware of that.
It's part of the job of the Zoom Gabayim or
absolutely,
to quietly text saying, "Hey, would you turn your camera on?"
Yeah,
it's a lovely thing when a community does that.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg is mentioning in the chat that about the new Keynote. That Keynote a month ago, maybe a couple weeks ago, released a new feature which is really pretty exciting. So if you go into Keynote and you just create this is just a blank template that I have here. You go up to Media, and then you can choose to insert live video. So now this is actually a live video from my computer. And one of the things that's neat about this, so I can actually build this scene however I want. If I go over to the live video, I can change the size of it. So I can do something like this if I want. I could then add some text over here. So if I wanted to actually build my slides let me grab some text I can put in there. I'll just grab what should we grab? Let me grab some text here. I'll grab some Breshit. How's that? Grab some Breshit, copy this, put it into, this won't be formatted correctly, but you all will get the idea. We'll make that a little bigger.
And you can also use the mask feature to make yourself a circle or
Yep.
other.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that
absolutely.
it really took a video switcher to do, you can now do inside Keynote.
It's really unbelievably powerful. It really is. So again, I understand that the text is not formatted correctly, but I don't want to spend the time doing that right now. Make it a little bigger. That's too big. So you could build out your slides with your Siddur or your Torah text right here. And then you've got, let me make this full screen and then turn this off. And then you've got your rabbi or your cantor over here. Now here's what's really kind of cool. So if I duplicate this slide and I want to change this, I can move this over here. I can move this over here. I can do whatever I want to this slide. Let's make this, let's make it a circle now. You get the idea, right? You can play with it. You can have some fun. And then if you go in and you apply to the whole slide the magic move, then you'll see what happens when I press play here. So here's the first slide. Oh, wait. I messed that up. Oh, you know what's interesting? No, you know what's interesting? So if you change the mask, it doesn't work. Let me go back. That's fascinating. Hold on a second. I'm going to take this and put it over here, but I'll move it over here. So I did not know. I just learned that. So now let's play this again. So there's the first slide. There you go. And so you can really create dynamic, interesting presentations right here in Keynote with live video. Now, the downside to this is to get this into Zoom. Right now, Keynote does not have a virtual camera out. So to get this into Zoom, sorry for my flickering camera, let me come back. To get that into Zoom, you would still have to screen share. But if you make Keynote full screen and then you just screen share that, then people will be able to see you through the live video and anyone else. And you can add as many, so I have a couple cameras hooked up here. Let's see if we can add a second video. And we're going to go in and I'm going to format this camera and we're going to change it to, oh, my other camera isn't turned on right now. Let me see if I can add a source. There it is. I'm going to add that. And is it going to work? Let's see if it works. Come on, you can do it. Video is off. I guess I don't have it plugged in right now. In any case, you can add multiple cameras to this. So you could have a camera on your rabbi, a camera on your cantor, have them all coming into your computer, feed them right into Keynote, and then you can create some really interesting dynamic slides. You can put your logo on the bottom.
I think you need a fairly beefy computer to try to do this. I think I tried to do it and the video slowed down quite a bit. So you do need to have a bit of a beefy computer to do that in Keynote.
That wouldn't surprise me, but that's why, right? Am I the only one here who had a crazy day on Tuesday when Apple had their big announcement, and I had to get myself a Mac Studio? There's your beefy computer if you need it. In any case, Greg, thank you for that because yeah, Keynote is even though it still has its limitations, Keynote really can be a powerful and relatively simple way to present, to share Torah, to share davening experiences in more creative ways.
Without having to invest thousands of dollars in video equipment? Without
having to invest anything, right? If you've got a Mac, it's free. It's free. You can even check this out. This is just crazy. So there, I'm rounding the corners a little. I can round the corners on that. What else should we do? Let's do style. Let's put a border on it. We can do a picture frame. Wait, ready for this? Watch this. Wait, let me turn the picture frame off. The reflection, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Can you see in the reflection, the reflection is live video also. That's right.
I'm hoping there's a plugin that actually separates it like the Red Sea.
my hands are moving in the reflection. This is not just some goofy, it's just wild. It's really, really powerful. Very, very powerful. I like the picture frame, I think. Here we go. Just pin me up. Pin me up in the sanctuary and I'm good to go. There you go. Pin your rabbi up. In any case, what else? Anything else, either from the video or just nothing? Anything in general? Thoughts, insights, funny jokes, anything at all? I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you what. Thank you, Greg. I'll tell you one thing. I don't know if any of you saw the Cantors Assembly had a big concert the other night for Ukraine. And I reached out to them right afterward. And I said, please ask me to help you in the future. I said, I won't charge you. We need to insist that Jewish communities do this better. Now, it doesn't have to be fancy production. It can just be a matter of managing the Zoom. But we have to insist that we do this better because it's worth it.
We have to be able to hear and see the messages, and using the tech to, it's the same thing as before. If it's in service of the kavanah, it serves good. And sometimes when it's not done well, you just see that the technology is blocking it. You can't hear,
Right.
It's out of sync, the echoes are bad, and we need to help people overcome that. That's the mission of this Torah tech, is to really get to a level where communication is clear, the kavanah is flowing.
Yeah, the AJC had a call yesterday with the mayor of Dnipro, formerly known as Dnipropetrovsk in Ukraine. Now, you know, I have absolutely nothing to complain about. Everything that we've talked about is meaningless compared to what's happening in Ukraine. Having said that, there was a translator on the call, and she was not using a microphone. So she was just talking into, I guess, her computer. She had the virtual background on. So not only were we distracted by not being able to see her clearly, we couldn't even hear clear. We literally could not hear the translation. And I desperately wanted to hear what he had to say. And again, you know, there's no critique here because Ukraine is a whole different level. But generally speaking, we can, should, and must insist that we do better in the way that we share Torah, because Torah is worth it. Torah is worth it.
I think we could have a whole panel of volunteers, just like we have at our shul, volunteer shamashim, that you just sign up for events. You know, if Torah Tech could be kind of a convener of that, then, you know, yes, we can have people, skilled volunteers who can come and help improve the quality of those, just to the extent of being able to understand clearly.
Yeah, I started thinking about this last year, and I built on my site. It's not. No one can really find it. I have it hidden there. But this idea of Torah Techis, right? And that you can, if you want to be a Torah Techi, click there. If you need a Torah Techi, click here. And then, you know, I can link people up and so that they get the help that they need. Whether
it's like a shidduch. It's a matchmaking service.
I'm a shadchan. That's what I am. I'm a shadchan. I'm a matchmaker, make me. So that was my goal. Live. Well, yeah. I mean, I need. You know what? Maybe I'll revisit it. I think that a lot of people, a lot of communities. I wonder, I don't know. I wonder if communities are hesitant to have outside people to give that control to outside folks. And I understand that completely. This is a sacred time. It's a sacred experience. And you want to be able to control that. You want to make sure that it's what you want it to be. But I think it's important. I really do.
Yeah, so, but it can also be educational, like you do all the time, let's practice. We'll practice on Thursday, and then you can run it on Shabbat yourself. Yep. And you know, absolutely. I don't need to be there because you're empowered to do it. Spreading the love, spreading the knowledge.
Absolutely. All right, friends. Look, go, Adrian.
We were just talking about, how we can bring in some of our younger people that are still in high school to help with the technology. These kids have so much tech background, and it gets them back into the synagogue more often, and hopefully they'll feel more attached and want to be, even when they're not doing the video. That's what we're working on right now.
Beautiful. Yeah. Lots of ways for people to get involved.
Yeah, and intergenerational. So yeah, use that generation gap to bridge the generations to help us overcome the technical limits. It's beautiful, Adrian.
Well, I'll tell you, I could not have gotten our stuff online and working without the 17-year-old high school senior whiz kid that solved so many problems, and he's going to college next year. Too bad. So we'll have to find another one. But yeah, it's worth it.
It is. And there's been a lot of talk actually about the use of teenagers, because on the one hand, of course, on the one hand, they know it, they get it, they live this life. On the other hand, I've said a number of times that it's not enough to know what button to press. It's not enough to know the tech. You have to know the Torah also. And so you want someone who knows the service, or who has an appreciation for the sanctity of the moment, or and on and on and on. So I think that there's education to go all around here. There's education about the technology. There's opportunities to teach those who know the technology about the Torah. There's education all around, to go all around. So, friends, I think we're going to cut it there. It's 4:07. I'm so grateful to all of you for being here. Henry, Adrian, Dave. This is so much fun. Thank you so much. And Greg for the comments and for mentioning Keynote. Thank you. I wouldn't have thought to mention that. That was a great catch.
A great demo, David.
Yeah, thanks. So friends, we will be back in 2 weeks. And in the meantime, if you do want some help, if you want to be a Torah techie, reach out to Dave, reach out to myself, reach out to Adrian. That's who we should reach out to. We're all going to reach out to she's our techie, our Torah tech. All right, everyone. Have the most lovely day, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.